Here we are, just like that. Another freaking day. Another one. Another one. I'm not in the woods. I guess each day can't be perfect. Yeah. More voices. They're endless, and they're all going to be heard. They're endless. It's funny, last couple days, talking about trying to bring things to people's attention. Maybe the reason people can't pick up what I'm putting down is a lot of people have Tourette's. Maybe that's what it is, you know? You know, you can make a quick mention about some shit that's going on that's absolutely horrible, and everybody's automatic answer is something like, Donald Trump! Maybe it's Tourette's. You know what I mean? Maybe that's what it is. And still, I went through a bunch of comments yesterday, and the issues I was trying to bring awareness to was the fact that there is a small group of people responsible for hundreds of thousands of innocent lives being perished in the last couple of years. And nobody has any concern. Nobody knows the names of those responsible. Nobody has anything to say about it. And still nobody has. Isn't that weird? I think that's 2 days. This is going to be the third day of slightly mentioning it. And even right now, because I'm mentioning this, somebody, is Tourette's maybe, possibly is going to kick in. They're going to go, Donald Trump's a son of a bitch. Really? And nobody says shit about the fact that we are on the brink of World War III. Hundreds of thousands of innocent lives have perished in the last couple of years. Nobody even touched on that. Still hasn't. Isn't that spooky? Think about that one. That's really spooky. But a lot of people wanted to vent on one individual who has had no influence in any of these deaths or World War III. Yeah, there you go. I'm just saying. Maybe that's the answer. A bunch of people got Tourette's, and it funnels through their fingers to the keyboard, and they just like saying, hey, you know, we're on the verge of World War III right now. Strawberry sandwiches! Right? It's about how much sense what I just said makes exact same amount of sense as what a lot of people's replies to that mention have been the past couple days. I'll stop. I'll quit there. Let's get into it right now with some more important voices in mind. Now, these are from, I don't know if I'd rather not. Who knows? We're going to get into it. If it makes you angry, go get a refund out the door. My 2 unforgettable Sasquatch encounters in 2019. Hi, Steve. Oh, shit. I got the microphone, but I think the laptop picked that up. I guess we'll find out at the end, right? Maybe. Sorry. Hi, Steve. I've witnessed paranormal activity in various places throughout my life, which doesn't really spook me as much as the 2 Sasquatch paranormal encounters I have experienced last year. It concerns me tremendously because the second encounter happened nearby populated areas. Please share my stories to inform many of the truth of these beings. Here are the detailed account of my first paranormal Sasquatch encounter that occurred on the first weekend in April of 2019. On Friday evening, right after work, April 5th, 2019, I drove up to nearby Meadville, PA, to attend a small class reunion at one of my former classmates' beautiful hunting lodge he had built on 200 acres of land that he purchased a few years ago. After my arrival, I settled in and mingled with former classmates and friends for a while. A good friend of mine who is an avid hunter asked me if I wanted to come along for a small trek, bracket, in the dark with flashlights and a rifle in tow, and bracket, around 10 p.m. to check on a couple of state-of-the-art deer stands that he helped recently install on our friend's property. I'm not afraid of the dark, and besides, he's a marksman shooter, so I felt very safe in his presence. A big rainstorm came through a few days prior, so we were trekking in the wet, marshy woods to the newly installed deer stands. Not long into our trek, in the dark, I sensed something was out there with us and watching us. It was very uncomfortable, eerie, and familiar feeling, which I had sensed several years ago in 2008 while on a horseback excursion in Mount Buena Vista, Colorado, which I can tell you more in detail another time if you'd like. But at this point, my friend and I were trekking for a good 10 to 12 minutes. I sensed we were being watched and stalked. When we were almost to the first deer stand, I instinctively sensed danger, so I immediately nudged my friend's jacket and grabbed his arm, and I whispered to him, "I think we better head back to the lodge right now." And he replied, "Come on, Sasquatch isn't up here," and snickered. We've had brief discussions about Bigfoot in PA in the past because he spends a lot of time working outdoors. He was reluctant to leave the area, so I firmly said, "We've got to go." It took us approximately 15 minutes to get back to the hunting lodge on foot, and the entire time I was praying that nothing would jump out at us in the pitch darkness, and thank God nothing did. I was so relieved when we finally made it back to the hunting lodge. When we got back, he wasn't too happy with me about it, but he understood I was quite uncomfortable out there when I sensed imminent danger. The next morning, Saturday, April 6, 2019, it was a beautiful spring but chilly and partially sunny morning, and the birds were chirping away. We just finished breakfast, and a few of us decided to explore and trek around the 200-acre hunting lodge properly to see the beautiful surroundings, as well as check on those recently installed deer stands. Even though I was feeling a bit uneasy and reluctant from what happened the night before, I figured it would be all right since it was a beautiful spring day. We were trekking here, trekking there, and I was trailing behind my two friends who were approximately 10 to 15 yards ahead of me. I spotted several X tree structures scattered at various places throughout the densely wooded area near the trails and deer paths, and I was taking pictures with my Android phone. While doing so, I started feeling that same uncomfortable feeling. And I sensed that something was nearby watching and stalking us again. Boy, was I right. My natural instinct and discernment was spot on. Within minutes of sensing that we were being stalked again, I came across this huge footprint on the ground. It was so creepy, and it was enough confirmation for me as to what it was and gave me goosebumps all over my arms. I quickly took a pic of it with my Android phone, and that's when I distinctly heard this weird gibberish mumble-jumble coming from behind me. And suddenly I felt a gentle but firm squeeze on my right shoulder, and when it let go of its firm grip, I felt some energy drain from my body. At this point, I felt a huge and hovering presence behind me, but when I turned around, no one was there. I could see my two friends in front of me from where this took place, and I immediately ran as fast as I could towards them, but my legs felt like jello. I asked one of them if he just pranked me, and both guys said, "What? No. We were walking ahead of you because we're having a hunting discussion." When they said that, I freaked out and showed them the footprint photo and asked them if they could explain what kind of footprint it was. They both looked at each other and said it looks like a huge human footprint, but they couldn't figure out what made it and asked me to show them where I saw it. They both followed me back to the spot where I found it, and they were baffled as to what it was. But I knew what it was, and I stayed close to them the rest of the trek back to the hunting lodge. It is without a doubt Sasquatch walks around and is here on our friend's 200-acre property. Fast forward to that evening, we were grilling marinated venison right outside the lodge, just chilling, and a bunch of us were sitting around the cozy fire pit reminiscing about good old times and laughing when I heard strange rustling movements and loud tree branches breaking from the nearby distance in the woods that surrounded us. We all right away stopped talking, and I felt like we were being watched again. By this time I had enough. I was feeling pretty creeped out and upset after everything that I experienced, so I went inside and stayed inside. Needless to say, I had a difficult time sleeping that night in my room, even with the shutters drawn, and I have not returned ever since then. Now, here's the icing on the cake, so to speak. 5 months later, I had my second Sasquatch encounter and first Sasquatch sighting. On Saturday, September 7th, 2019, at around 9 p.m., I was driving up to visit a close friend on Interstate 376 from PA into Ohio. I just passed the Newcastle exit. I turned off my AC and I cracked open my window for some fresh air, and all of a sudden it hit me. I got a whiff of something putrid in the air and disgusting, and the disgusting stench smelled like awful garbage and fecal matter. I immediately closed my window and turned on my high beams. A few minutes later, I saw a huge, bulky, and hairy, reddish-brown figure squatting on the shoulder of the highway to my right. My friend's got an excavator going next door now, in case you can hear that. Sorry. A few minutes later, I saw a huge, bulky, and hairy reddish-brown figure squatting on the shoulder of the highway to my right with its broad, hairy back facing me while it was facing toward the tree line, which is about 10 to 15 feet away. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. I was driving around 70 miles per hour when I first set eyes on it with my high beams, and I right away slowed down to around 50 to get a better look at it because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. As I got closer, I saw this huge, bulky, and hairy reddish-brown Sasquatch with a conical head just squatting still with its back towards me on the shoulder of the highway. When I drove past it, I realized it was about 2 feet from my car. As soon as I passed, I sped up to 80 and got the heck out of there. I saw only pitch black darkness behind me when I looked out at my rearview mirror. And I've traveled through this area of I-376 frequently for the last few decades and never saw what I saw that night. I've driven through that area several times since, and anyone driving on this highway could see all kinds of X-log and X-tree structures, alongside, within the tree line on this stretch of highway. Steve, these beings are here too. They are in nearby populated areas for miles along this stretch of I-376. And it's mind-blowing and creepy as heck. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who has seen and had encounters like this in these areas. I'm sure you're not the only one for sure. Steve, thanks so much for sharing your valuable insight and helpful stories of your Sasquatch encounters. I tremendously appreciate you warning many people about the truth and true existence of Sasquatch/Bigfoot. And yes, it's absolutely difficult to do so when facing ridicule. But it does not deter me from warning others about it either. These couple of Sasquatch encounters and sightings has definitely changed my outlook on being outdoors. I'm more careful and acutely aware of my surroundings when venturing into the woods more than ever now. Because it seems that Sasquatch and other cryptid encounters are happening more and more, while our government are obviously hiding it. And P.S. I made a brief comment just the other day in your second Dogman Skull video regarding a similar sense of being watched while in a weekend horseback excursion in Colorado. But that is the same feeling I felt when I had my supernatural experience with these Sasquatch beings back in April last year. I'll send you a few pics of the property on that day of our trek when this happened, and of the footprint in a separate email because the files are too large to attach here. Please give me your expert opinion. I greatly appreciate it. Stay healthy and stay safe, keeping you and Sarah in my prayers. Okay, there's no pictures. Sorry. No pictures attached here, you guys. Whoops. Ah, well, you know what? We've seen the footprint pictures a gazillion billion times anyway, right? But I appreciate that email. I appreciate it a lot. What do we got here? Where'd this come from? It looks to be a... Why is it a screenshot? It looks like it came from an email. I'm going to read it. I got some screenshots we're going to hit right now too, right? Alright, here's a screenshot. I think that if we can receive a telepathy message, then we should be able to send one. Hopefully we can figure it out. Good point. Good mention. Right? If that comment doesn't make a whole pile of common sense, easily and simply. I agree. Wouldn't that be fun? Here's another screenshot comment. Steve, we appreciate your videos and time talking about the new information coming in. In actuality, typo, I actually got back out into the woods this summer to uncover the old cabin and get it ready for hunting season. If it wasn't for you and your inspiration, I would never have gone back out into the woods I've loved and hunted and trapped all my life. The encounter in 2005 totally terrified me and gave me terrible PTSD. I'm third generation, and this sweet 35-acre woods always fed the family. Steve, thank you. I don't mind at all hitting the skip button. It's easy. Just take your index finger and touch the screen. I'm currently looking at a hunting camp for the handicap. I experienced a sudden loss of my abilities to walk and raise my arms and lift heavy objects from a disease called PMR. I went to bed October 9th, 2021, and woke up the next day robbed of my abilities. But with rehab and perseverance, I'm 60% back and ready for God's blessings. That's great news. Good for you. Good for you getting back at it too. That's the whole point of us coming together here as a tight group, right? A true community here. That's what happens, you guys. People get courage. Win. There's a win. People gaining courage from all of you. There's another screenshot comment that I hope you heal to 100% too. South America has some of the strangest shit on earth. I live in Ecuador for many, many years with my dad, who worked for a big corporate glass company, O-I, out of Toledo, Ohio. Part of his job is to find just the right sand down there to refine into glass. I went with him on many of these trips into the mountains and jungle. Forget about the indigenous brutal Indians down there. It's the damned ghoulish things that come out at night east of the Andes, in the Amazon River Basin and beyond. Absolutely frightening and super weird. The Andes and the Amazon are truly haunted, and not by anything good or friendly. I won't go out in these places anymore. We still maintain an apartment in Guayaquil, Guayaquil. I won't leave the city for anything, which is a shame because Ecuador's beauty is unmatched. The area of the world is still very uncharted and completely wild, and I know why. You know why? Share it with us. Email me. Share my story at howtohunt.com. I want to know why. If you know why, I want to know why. Tell me. I have a huge interest in what you just shared. Why? Because it represents adventure to me. It also represents the real world, way far away from my slice of real world. And that shit makes me real curious. So if you're still watching, could you please email me with what you know about what's going on down there besides the anacondas and all that other shit? I want to know. And somebody else probably does too. Another screenshot. Hi, Steve. I'm back in Oregon off and on. 2 more kids to get through college, and then I can go back to the Philippines. Went up on Voodoo Mountain last year to recover a crashed pickup. I saw one broken tree about 8 feet up and a couple of tracks. We hooked up the wreck and came back down. Hang in there, brother. All right, there you go. Why was that screenshot? Don't know, but it was. Possibly because of the area? Probably. Oregon. No shortage of shit going on in Oregon. Ever. These are all recent screenshots. The poems coming to that guy in his sleep that used to happen to me when I was a teenager. Then it became almost like an automatic writing because they would come one after the other. I'd be up for hours writing poems in rough draft, then rewriting them in calligraphy, knowing I needed to sleep for school but was unable to stop. It went on for a couple of years. Then they just suddenly stopped appearing in my head after a woman from the detention home I was in, for running away from home, stole all my poems. It's like I just got a sudden writer's block. I'm now 50 years old and I still haven't had another poem come to me. I miss it, honestly. I felt like lots of wisdom just flowing through me. Holy shit, is that ever interesting or what? That is so crazy interesting. That's brand new to me too, since the first email we read with that person sharing the poem that just came out. And now we got another person saying the same shit. How many more of you had that experience? That's bizarre, don't you think? So bizarre. It's like kids or some people all of a sudden speaking fluent in some foreign language out of the blue. Interesting. Here's a huge screenshot. Poem. 1, 2, 3, 4 screenshots to get it all in. Steve, in 1979, I went backpacking into the Mink Lake Basin up the Three Sisters Wilderness Mountains of Oregon State. The first day's hike, we just passed Junction Lake and still walking to Mink Lake. Along the trail, I caught movement to my left in a grove of trees in a small meadow. It was very tall and overlooking small pine trees. I tried not to get too excited and ignored it. I was hiking with my brother Roland, my girlfriend Lynn, and 4 children ages 7 to 12. We finally got to Mink Lake and set up camp on the lake's peninsula at 10:30 p.m. As we were all sitting on logs around the campfire cooking food, and we heard some very loud stomping noises going past our camp and moving further down the side of the lake. It stomped so loud, it sounded like a monster on 2 legs. The stomping sounds could be heard echoing across the lake. Holy shit! The creature stopped about a quarter mile away and then headed right back again toward our position. It passed our camp again in the dark of the thick forested trees. At 11 o'clock, we all decided to head to bed while that creature kept pacing past our campsite near the lake. At around 2:30 a.m., the huge stomping noise stopped. We camped, fished, and swam in the lake for 3 days and had the time of our lives. On the evening of the 3rd day, my brother decided to hike out of the woods in late evening and to camp in a different campground. It was now very dark. As we threw our back sacks together in a hurry to leave, we had packed our flashlights in the bottom of the packs. Not a very smart move. When we had just a few miles left to hike out of the woods, that giant black creature jumped out onto the trail right behind us. Alright, sorry, quick interruption. Adventure Dog's back in here with me and she's chewing a bone under the table. If you hear it, sorry. Alright, when we had just a few miles left to hike out of the woods, that giant black creature jumped out onto the trail right behind us. It grunted, snorted, and was breathing very heavy as it stomped down the trail right behind us, 30 to 50 feet behind us. We finally got to the last switchbacks going down the trail, and the huge black creature took a shortcut down through the brush and was now 15 to 20 feet above us on the trail next to us. Well, I got very scared, not only for myself, but for the others I was hiking with. For a little safety, I placed my daughter behind me and my son in front of me. My girlfriend, then my 2 brothers' sons in front of my girlfriend, and by this time my older brother decided to hike out fast with one of the children's packs to the car, and then come right back to help the rest of the group with their packs to the car. Meanwhile, the tall black creature kept cutting through the brush and stood above us each time on the trail. The kids started screaming. To calm everyone down, I got the kids to sing as loud as I could the song of the 7 Dwarfs. Hi-ho, hi-ho, for off to home we go. They kept that loud singing up while the giant beast stomped down the trail 30 to 50 feet behind us at all times, snorting, grunting, breathing heavy, while stomping its bipedal feet right behind us. This kept up for 2.25 miles. Holy shit! There's got to be some PTSD out of this one. This kept up for 2.25 miles. Scared out of our lives. We got down to the car where I met my older brother and told him what had happened to us. At this time, we heard a loud crash behind some trees on the edge of the trail just before the clearing to our car. My brother sent all kids and girlfriend to the car. Then my brother says to me, "Paul, pick up those 2 4-inch rocks." And he did too. We got to within 20 feet of that tree the beast was behind, and my brother started throwing those big rocks at the creature. What the hell? While each time, the creature screamed out and groaned while it was hit with the rocks. That sounds a little off. After my brother had thrown his 2 rocks and also my 2 rocks, I asked my brother what we were going to do then. He looked at me and yelled, "Run for the car." Well, my brother's legs are very long while mine are short, and I felt very uncomfortable about that for sure. But we made it to the car, and once inside of it, my brother Roland started the engine, and we kicked up dust and gravel as we fishtailed down the road in a big panic. I believe that this Bigfoot was a huge 8-foot tall one. And also a female. I feel really bad about throwing those rocks at it now, as it may have followed us to actually protect our hiking group from harm of cougars and bears. When you're frightened, you do some really stupid things to creatures. We never went back to hike those wilderness mountains of the 3 Sisters again. No doubt. No doubt. And I wonder how all the kids and everybody's doing since that experience. Like, how are they doing mentally? Are they alright? PTSD? You know what I mean? And where do you go from there? How do you counsel your children? Will they ever go anywhere near a bush or a park or forest ever again? Do they know what's going on? Have you guys sat them down and talked to them about what's going on? Creepy. I screenshot this. I must have done it for some reason. Let's read it. Some of my favorite sayings that have changed my life. Legit. All right, here we go. Number 1. You teach people how to treat you. Number 2. What others think of you is none of your business. Be you. Number 3. Always be authentic. Be you. Everything you need to be your whole authentic self you already have. Number 4. We were put here for a purpose. If we're living outside of that purpose, we are useless to ourselves and others. Number 5. Never trust words. Question actions. Never doubt patterns. True. Number 6. If you do what you always did, you'll get what you always got. That should be on a t-shirt. Don't you think? If you do what you always did, you'll get what you always got. Holy shit, is that ever a great statement for a lot of people on this planet? Right? That needs to be on a t-shirt, that sucker. There we go. There are some screenshots. What do we got here? My phone's a little bit messy since I got the new phone. Where are we going from here? Just make sure there's no more here that I missed. All good. The dog's loving her bone. She just went for a walk with her mommy. What do we got here? I don't know what this is. This is a recent from the inbox of the emails. Here we go. Hopefully more questions answered for someone. Hi, Steve. In relation to a recent video on war that I was not allowed to post, it's little realized that all politicians are somehow compromised at a certain level of office to be sure they toe the line. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. It's a club. You gotta go. You want to join that club, you gotta go by some kind of rules. And they're nasty. I was foolishly stunned at the acquiescence of folk during lockdown, but the I don't watch TV. Well, the reality is that the population have been put under a specific type of mind control for decades, clearly. Clearly to me. Very clear to me. These manipulators are social engineers extraordinaire. They know exactly how most people tick. They set the parameters. They know the ingredients for a specific kind of cake. No mystery there. Absolutely no mystery. I realized that a long time ago. There is a recipe. It's just like there's a recipe to successfully train a horse or a dog. There's a recipe that is working currently on human beings. 110%. It's not working on my ass. I know that, to a point. Sorry. As for the necessary evil of war, there are no innocents. It's difficult to realize, but that child was not always that child. And if we knew clearly on a spiritual level why they or we were going through any torment, we might understand the reality that war is created by collective and individual greed and jealousy. And in times of war, the deep-rooted red impressions that brought that war about can and often are brought into balance. The spiritual hierarchy orchestrate war for individual and collective needs. The mortal powers that be are mere pawns. There are acts of selflessness and heroism in times of conflict that are very rare to reproduce in times of peace. Of course, I admire compassion, but remember, looks can often be deceiving. And yes, this is a movie playing out. No mistakes in any of the scenes in this pantomime, which invariably leads to liberation from lower desires from one life to the next. Actually a blessing. Nothing actually dies as we see death. I'm convinced in some way Sabe doubtless know this and do not get involved in man's conflicts as they must see it as it truly is. Their intelligence outstrips ours in so many ways. In fact, the only time I know of that they did get involved. Was as Hunaman, Hunuman, king of the Sabe, who lived at the time of Lord Rama 7,000 years ago. An incredible story and study. I hope this helps to clarify. Reference, God speaks dash Meher Baba, Meher, capital Baba. Thanks, Steve, for what you do. I send this to you as it was constantly being deleted off your comment section. Blessings of insight. No shit. Isn't that creepier than shit? That, it's just creepy. That the mainstream items, tools, constantly attack all of you guys here, me, every one of us, and delete your speech. It ain't me doing it. Isn't that amazing and sad and disgusting? Interesting mention you had in the end of that, too. I'll look into it. Never heard of it. It's funny on that topic, at the end of World War II, there's a photograph. Google it up. Google it up. You can find it on the internet. Because I tried reposting that photo on here and on Instagram, and they wouldn't let me. They kept deleting it. And it's a photo of what the people did to the Germans who were in charge of the mainstream news during World War II. And all those people were hanging from poles in the street. You know, it sucks, though, as obviously we haven't learned. They waited until after millions of people were killed before the people responsible got strung up. That's a bit of a fuck up, wasn't it? That's a bit of a screw up there. Because right now, possibly if we learned from our past lessons, if we were to round up all these individuals right now, I guarantee you we'd save millions of innocent lives. Why wait? What do we wait for? Right? What do we wait for? The good need to rise and do some nasty ass shit, as far as I'm concerned. We're at that stage, right? We're at that stage. Good men need to do some bad shit to bad men and women. Now, this email, I know I've read it before, and I'm going to read it again. I think it's a very valuable share. And to top it off, it is where I frequent a lot currently. Some of you may have heard this, some of you may not have. This was sent originally in over 4 years ago. All right. Good evening, Steve. I've just had to pause one of your videos so I could focus enough to hammer out a coherent email. It's been an unexpected and somewhat unusual pleasure to stumble onto your channel, which happened when I was doing some research on wolf and predation hunting / control here in our beautiful province. Coincidentally, we happened to recreate and spend time in very similar areas. I wouldn't all be surprised if we passed each other on Highway 40, the Duffy, or somewhere up in the Peace region. To give you a bit of background, I'm turning 30 this year, and I've been part of hunting since before I could walk. I was brought up in a hunting family. My father was a very accomplished hunter and fisherman, and my uncle, a guide / trapper / cowboy / logger / rancher from the Caribou, who for the past decade has been eating, breathing, and sleeping hardcore wolf predation control. I've spent more days in the bush than I can count. I've done some guiding for moose in west central BC, and I always felt confident and competent being outdoors. I've been successful in many deer, elk, moose, and bear hunts, and been charged by more than one grizzly and attacked by 4 cougars at the same time. Doubt all this all you want, I'll share the story later I finished it. I don't doubt shit. The event that changed things for me and my outlook on being in remote parts of our wilderness here in BC happened in September of 2014. I was outside of Chetwynd, hunting with 3 other friends, and my uncle happened to have already killed a large 6x7 bull elk and was still looking for a big bull moose, so he decided to join us for a few days. I appreciated it, not only for his accompanying 3 good horses in case we needed help extracting, but he is very familiar with the area and could help get us on the right foot. He knew the location of a fresh wallow and explained what he thought would be the best plan of attack. The extent of all this detail will make more sense later on in the story. The 4 of us woke up in the wall tent a few hours before sunup and discussed what our plans for the day were. I said I wanted to hit the wallow. I said I wanted to hit the wallow my uncle told me about and see how fresh the sign was. And one of the guys said he would join me if it was all right. It made sense to split up in pairs, and the other 2 guys wanted to go in the opposite direction, so we agreed to do that and left camp in the dark after some breakfast and coffee. As we left, I could see my uncle was saddling a horse in the glow from a small fire. He had declined our offer to join the wall tent, opting for his usual bed of sleeping bag on the ground beside the truck. It's thicker than shit in there. Go real slow and good luck, he said to me and my partner as we walked past. I do the same thing. I don't give a shit where I am, especially guiding. I always slept on my own. I'm like, I just spent the whole day with you. I don't need to lie next to you in a tent and smell your farts and listen to your frickin' breathing. Right? I always slept by myself. Still do. The brush was thick and the going was slow as we headed towards the area I thought the wallow to be. And that was okay as we were waiting for some light, other than what our headlamps could offer. About 40 minutes of careful stalking in, we got to the shallow, moss-covered gully that would lead to the wallow. No elk there, but lots of fresh signs, so we decided to head deeper into the bush. We shortly started to bump elk. Never getting close enough to get a real good look, but I could get a glimpse of hide here and there, which kept us quietly moving forward after the herd. Hoping for an opening where we could see longer than 40 to 50 yards, we kept on. I'm sure you're familiar with how much deadfall there can be in the forest floor in this country, but after an hour or two of walking further in the direction of the elk, it became clear there was more deadfall than standing timber. Yeah, that sucks. The fallen pine and spruce were also almost completely covered in thick, soft moss, which created a crisscross of tight ropes that could be traveled in almost eerie silence. Well, there's that good part about it, right? After more than an hour of this nearly noiseless walking, I finally see elk. The timber we're in now was more sparse, as so much of it was laying horizontally, which allowed sight lanes of up to nearly 100 yards. I was out in front of blank, his friend, and motioned to him to stop and look at the cow in front of us about 60 yards away, and he nodded in acknowledgement. The cow looked uneasy and suddenly darted off almost directly away from us, and as she did, I caught more patches of tan hide in multiple directions all around us, and realized we had made our way right among the herd. I wanted to get a look to see how far they had gone, and if there were any more around. I made my way towards where I had seen the last animal, and we came to an area that was more or less ringed by trees, and what I was looking down into was slightly lower in elevation, fairly open, apart from a huge upturned tree, the roots of which had pulled up the moss floor with it. Quote, "There's an effing dude down there," end quote. As soon as I got to the edge of the trees, I raised my rifle up and started scanning for what I hoped would be a big steaming bull elk. My eyes bugged out of my head. My eyes knew what they were seeing, but my rational brain told me that was incorrect. As I looked through my scope at a massive, dark, man-shaped figure, I could clearly see a large man-shaped being from the waist up, walking slowly across in front of me, head forward in what I'd have to call a sneaking hunch-like creep. I lowered my rifle quickly and looked back to blank in disbelief, quote, "There's an effing dude down there." I whispered to him, still not being able to make any sense of what was taking place in front of me. My only rational thought was that must be my uncle coming to find us. He was the only one to know where we might be, and he must be wearing a big black jacket. We both often wear those dark brown leather Outback duster jackets when riding, and I just wasn't seeing this correctly. The light in this area was filtered by the canopy of the tall firs and blocked any direct sunlight, which made everything slightly fuzzy or hazy, so my eyes had to be playing tricks on me. I closed my eyes quickly and refocused on this huge dark figure quartering towards me about 50 yards away, and realized that I was not, in fact, just another hunter. I think he meant, and realized that it was not, in fact, just another hunter or human being at all for that matter. As I'm still trying to process and come to terms with what I'm looking at, my buddy makes his way beside me, and I indicate with a small head nod what I'm talking about. I remember a wave of confusion and disbelief filling my brain as we quietly crouched down and looked at each other in unison, each of us seeing each other's eyes doubling in size. I didn't know what to say, and even if I did, the last thing I wanted to do was make any sort of noise. "That's not an effing dude." He more mouthed that than whispered to me. My head gently nodded a few times in agreement as I looked back towards what had us so bewildered. All I could now see was two massive legs, as thick as trees and covered in dark hair, about 40 yards away. The thing is now totally still, and I looked to my buddy, who points a finger towards the legs and then his own, confirming we're both in agreement to what we're seeing. I was trying to stay level-headed, but my head was enthralled in a heavy battle with the reality unfolding in front of us. The pieces were coming together. The vision of the dark face I saw through my scope The massive size, the thick black hair, and lack of clothes, and holy shit, we're looking at an effing Sasquatch. I can't describe exactly what emotion I was feeling the strongest at this time. I was still confused. Actually, I think in disbelief or shock would be more accurate, but also excited and curious, as well as uncertainty. What does one do when looking at the legs of a mythical creature within bow range? Well, I was hunting, and I was well armed, and thought that if I was so certain of what I saw, and that it wasn't a human, someone playing a prank on us, then the best way to prove what's in front of me would be to kill it. My rifle was ready to go with one in the chamber, and I slowly brought it up as quietly as possible, flicked the safety off, until that barely audible click of the safety falling forward. The thing we were so intently watching hadn't moved an inch. But suddenly, in a split second, it shifted on both legs. It shifted and both legs were now facing us directly. Out of the corner of my eye, I could tell my buddy was seeing this too, but he gave me a tiny head nod, telling me he understood what I was planning to do next. Through my scope from the position I was crouched, I could only see from somewhere below the knee to around the beginning of its waist, so I knew I had to move to get a proper angle. God, this would be so frickin' intense, wouldn't it? Slowly and carefully as I could, my gun up, finger on the trigger and looking through the scope, I stood up. But as I did, a small twig snapped underneath my foot, and before I knew what was happening, the bush in front of us exploded. The being turned and bolted, moving faster than anything I'd ever seen before, and mowed through the brush and trees like a locomotive going down a track. Huge limbs and trees broke and cracked as it disappeared. It seemed like nothing hindered its departure. And add all the commotion, multiple patches of tan hide flashing made us aware that, surprisingly enough, during this whole, mostly silent standoff, the elk were in fact still all around us. At this point, we didn't know what to make of the situation at all. I was in some sort of denial/shock, and my buddy was very shaken up. Disturbed would probably be more accurate. And after sitting there for some time quietly discussing what we had just encountered, we decided we should carefully and warily make our way back to camp, which we did so uneventfully. Not to say we weren't on high alert with guns loaded. No doubt. So this is my story. Apologies for the length and detail, but I just felt like it was the best way to put yourself in my boots that day. You did it. You put me there. I've always wondered what would have happened if I had settled the crosshairs between its eyes and squeezed off a round. I just don't know. You would have killed it. From what I know, from what I've learned from people, I believe you would have killed it if you shot it square in the head. Listening to you tell other people's stories, I do find mine somewhat unique for a few reasons, and missed out on the full Sasquatch experience. I never really experienced any feelings of dread or fear until maybe it turned and faced us directly, making it clear in my mind that it was very aware of us. And even then, I think it was maybe just some anxiety of the fate coming from my decision to shoot. I didn't smell anything strange and never made any kind of noise until it tore off away from us. We couldn't find any footprints and looked for tracks but couldn't see any sign. I have a theory regarding this. I believe we interrupted his hunt. It was so focused on the elk that it didn't notice our presence right away. And that's why I was able to get such a good look at it creeping along. I'm no expert. I'm not a researcher. And before this experience, I would probably put myself in the Joe Rogan camp of non-believers. I doubted my own eyes, even though I had someone I trust my life with right beside me telling me I wasn't crazy for seeing what I'd seen. We didn't tell the other guys in camp, although I did go over to my uncle and asked him directly if he had ever seen or experienced anything in the bush that made absolutely no sense whatsoever. And he looked at me with a smile and said, "So you saw a Sasquatch, eh?" I don't know if he was serious or not, but all I could do was nod my head. Unfortunately, he wasn't of any help at the time and only tried to convince me I saw a retarded bear walking around. He knows what you're talking about. I just know this isn't the case. There's actually one more to this part, but I feel like this email is already too long, and I know you're a busy guy, so if you have any interest, I'd be more than happy to share via email, phone, or have a beer one day. I'd also like to offer my help. Not sure what that looks like, but I saw one of your latest videos you were thinking of getting some help reading and replying to emails. Not sure what that looks like, just throwing it out there. I drive a... Okay. Alright. Sorry guys, give me 1 second here. P.S. I'm not sure if you horse hunt around Chetwynd, but if you do, I'd bet you bumped into my uncle. He drives a white Ford single cab flat deck with a horse rack and 3 horses. I know he said there's a few horse guys. I know he's said there's a few horse guys left in that country, and he's bumped into a few over the years. Small world. And I just figured I'd mention it. All right, there you go. There you go. I don't know why. That email, I've always thought about that email. Not always, I think about it often, because I'm up around there all the time. Still am. And yeah, I mean, it's funny when he mentioned if you're bumped into my uncle, white flat deck with a horse trailer. There's about 500 of those ripping around up there at any given time. But how's that? He put me right there. How about you guys? Right? It's funny, too, where I will be going again, and I found a new area. I really went way far deeper into the bush on a brand new logging road. And it turns out it's right near where some native woodcutters were having, quote, full-size trees thrown at them. And also not too far from, it's directly in line in a way with Pink Mountain, which would be directly to the east of the northeast, and where there is nothing but sightings. Crossing Alaska Highway there. So I'm right in the thick of it, as usual, where I'm going hunting again in 2 weeks, I think. How long will I be up this time? I don't know. Anywhere from a week to a month. Solo. Every time I go up there, I half expect more stuff to happen. And this is right where my knife went missing. Well, my knife didn't go missing. I lost my knife. But it's also right where my knife was put back in my backpack without any physical presence doing it in front of me. And that really happened. Anyway. What am I forgetting? I think I'm forgetting something. See, not till usually when I go back and start my day and I leave here and I remember, oh yeah, shit. And I keep forgetting to share some items. Damn it. But one thing I can share with you, I do not remove comments, just so you know. I have removed people only because they are absolute toxic, brain-dead, violent idiots, and they have there's just no room for them here. They bring nothing good. So I have had to delete some dark souls in the past. That's about all I've done. But I never, ever delete your comments. That is the bad guys doing it. All right? And I do not unsubscribe you. YouTube, Google, whoever it is, unsubscribes you intentionally. Why? Haven't a clue. What else do they do? I'm going to touch on this one. Yeah, I forgot to the other day. Apparently, the videos are getting absolutely slammed with ads. Just so you guys know, the YouTube video creators have I cannot put ads on the videos. All right? These guys do, and they get paid for it. Now, why are they ramping up video ads like crazy? Excuse me, I don't know. Is it because they are trying to fatten up their coffers as much as they can before something comes? Maybe that might be the reason. It's kind of like, all right, we got to get our fishing in before the ice comes for the winter. You know, everybody's like, you gotta go, go, go. Get while the going's hot. You gotta get it, ramp it up, get as much as you can. Don't stop, because winter's coming. But in this case, what else could be coming? It's just another angle to look at it when you're trying to make sense of it. Why would they be ramping up ads on YouTube like crazy? I mean, the only reason they're doing it is for money. So what's the panic? What's the panic for them? Are they in a position right now they're just trying to make as much money as they can? Hurry, hurry, go, 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 go. Because it might be coming to an end, or a big long pause, maybe even. I think it's a very strong possibility, don't you? I think it is a very strong possibility the internet might go bye-bye for a time. Soon. Maybe. Possibly. I don't know. But my gut is still telling me that something bad's coming. Globally. Just is. I'm going to be honest. I got nothing to hide. I'm not ashamed. I hope I'm wrong. But my gut's been screaming for quite some time. My gut's been screaming enough that I've done what I can do. For me. For us here, I've done everything I can do within my power. I'm ready, bring it. Hopefully nothing's coming. But maybe that's why. Maybe that's why they're slamming the ads on here like crazy. I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. One thing for certain is a lot of shit-eating chaos is on its way. Whether here or another country, it's on its way. I don't think there's any stopping it now, unless every single good person in the world could organize somehow in the next month or few months or whatever, rise up and put an end to it. About the only way. We'll see what comes. Anyway, here I go. I'm gonna go change into my gumboots. I'm gonna go outside in the mud because it poured down rain last night, and I'm gonna pick up frickin' sticks from all the land we got. We took all the brush and all the shitty trees and the stumps and stuff and got an excavator in there, and it's absolute hell left in the ground, and I gotta go pick it up by hand. Somebody's got to do it. Share my story, howtohunt.com. Also, what else? All over the world again. Sarah's stickers all over the world. And I found, I know I suck at this, I just do. But I found when I was digging in the boxes that I had not unpacked since we moved in here way back, I found a box of these. I don't know how many there are. I'll bet there's 20 or 30 of them or something like that. And I told Sarah about it. She's like, oh, well, if you want, tell everybody if they want an autographed book. And maybe she'll put it in the store, or I don't know what she's going to do. She's going to do something with them if you're interested. And then, and she has a whole bunch of these. This is my soft cover for the hunters out there on the West Coast. This is my blacktail. Well, it doesn't have that strip across the front. This is actually a proof you get mailed to you to review it. And it has a bunch of my most memorable hunts, how I became a hunter, and what I learned, and a whole bunch of hunt stories in it. It's all color photos. Color. So it wasn't cheaped out printed, that's for sure. But there's, I don't know, how many pages are in this sucker? I don't even know. Over 350. Yeah, close to 400 pages. And she has a whole bunch of these. What I'm saying is she got a whole bunch of those in the house on the shelf, and a whole bunch of the hardcover versions too. And I don't think she put them in the store. Maybe somebody might want them. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it'll be a fun Christmas thing for somebody who grew up on the coast chasing black-tailed deer. Okay, time to get my button gear. To all you people who missed the message in the past couple days and your brains are a little messed up, let's see if you can focus on the cause, who's responsible for hundreds of innocent lives dead today in the past couple years, and who is ultimately responsible for putting us on the brink of World War III today. Without blowing a gasket, your Tourette's kicking off. Let's see, this is my little challenge to the class, those people who don't get it. Let's just see if you can focus on those two items. Challenge yourself. Do you think you can find out the names of who's responsible for that today? And then scream their names out and vent on them? Or are you going to knee-jerk and talk about peanut butter sandwiches or something? Right? Later.